It is what it is. This is a saying that I've heard a lot across the past maybe 2 to 3 years. It's a very simple statement, isn't it? Very concise, has a bit of finality to it, not much else to say. To me, it's a phrase I've heard a lot in the wake of my life getting more complicated, more chaotic. As my life has become more complex, as good and bad things have happened, I hear that saying more and more. And recently again I've heard it as my life takes on the brunt impact of another curveball, leaving me with the impact of what happened in its wake. There's not much else I can do but keep living and keep going. After all, it is what it is. But as I ponder that saying, that phrase, my brain realises that I'm in a bit of a need of time to heal. Time to really wind down from the stress of things. Only recently did I get back into gaming. Yes, despite being a channel that does focus a lot on games, I find it hard to place myself for a time and a date to play a game or two. Yet that's changed lately, with a lot of my spare time invested into games such as Atlas. It's a cute little game, reminds me a lot of Dot Hack in all the right ways, that same tactility to it and the fun of becoming a powerful god, raining all hell down on enemies that get as tough as you, an ever-increasing challenge where the game realises you're strong so it becomes strong in return, being incredibly addictive and incredibly fun to engage with. I find myself playing it with my partners, my friends, and my own little alcove of buddies I voice chat with from time to time, but in the midst of that, my brain is after something else, something more deeper than a game I can play with a level of automation. Cutting through the brain fog and the latent stress of things, I find that I'm yearning for simplicity. Simplicity in the form of Flash games. I miss these. Man, this is nostalgic. To give you the basic rundown, and for anyone who doesn't know, Flash games were a type of game created through the use of Macromedia Flash, later Adobe Flash, which is probably the one good thing Adobe has ever had under their brand. Characterized by their very homegrown nature, be it that they were usually made by either a single person or a group of people, Flash games could be anything, made from hobbyists and with passion. Platformers, puzzle games, dress up, RPGs, tactical RPGs, so on. The possibilities were virtually endless. Back in the 2000s and the first half of the 2010s, the internet was a haven for games of this nature, given that you could just simply go on a website, click on an icon most of the time, and bada boom, you're playing something made with passion, made with the intent to be fun. These sorts of games dominated the internet for a good 20 plus years, with several Flash games being broadcast into the public spotlight, and being a part of culture itself. No, they weren't just a part of culture, they were culture. Co-op, Happy Wheels, One Chance, Scary Maze Game, Whack Your Boss, Super Smash Flash, Can Your Pair, Frog Fractions, Interactive Buddy, The Fancy Pants Adventures, so on. You've most likely seen one of these or more, especially covered by the Let's Player boom of the 2010s, but games like these were internet culture for a long time. And this is just a drop in a far greater ocean, as Flash animations also dominated the internet space too. In a pre-YouTube era, Flash games and Flash animations ruled the roost. They were king, with places such as Newgrounds being, and continuing to be, the haven for all things made in the format. But all good things have their time, and Flash's decline started over time, with talks of discontinuation trickling through the cracks of the internet in the mid-2010s, ultimately culminating in the discontinuation of Flash's distribution in 2020, Flash no longer working within most web browsers post that time, and other alternatives with better support being cited as the reason why Flash ended. And yet, despite that, Flash has continued to exist beyond its death, with various archives, emulation and preservation efforts achieved through the greater gaming community, keeping these games alive and safe and sound for future generations to play with and tinker with. They were my childhood. In a simpler time, perhaps, I spent my days planting my fingers into the keys of a keyboard, using my mouse to access Flash sites, investing all the spare time I had into playing these little experiences that left their mark on me. Today, I want to look back. I want to look back and talk about some of the games that defined me, the Flash games that defined me and took up my time, what they mean to me, and if they still mean a lot to me now as I deal with the curveballs of life. Sit back, relax, and let's take a trip down memory lane to the world of Flash games. It's hard to place where exactly I first learned of Flash games, now that I think about it in retrospect. Or at least how I was introduced to them. See, as you get older, your memory of the past becomes foggier. It takes your memory being jogged for you to remember that deeply into the past. For me, a lot of my earliest memories are skeletons. Skeletons, structures, vague outlines and blueprints of those memories, rather than the real memories I had of those times. But I can pinpoint a few things. My earliest memories of Flash actually begin with, well, come on now, where else? But computers. To me, as a child, computers were posh. Not to get too into it, but I wasn't the most well-off kid. Like, I wasn't rich, my family certainly wasn't. We lived in a time warp of a town. We ran off of tapes and discs still. So the idea of owning a computer was astonishing to me. They were these monolithic boxes with access to the most mysterious place ever to me back then. The internet, which I only knew from ICT lessons, was the superhighway of possibilities. Crazy shit. But to a kid who had just a few things and wasn't particularly well off, they were impressive to me. They were these structures that could do anything and yet felt so intimidating at the same time. So alien, so monolithic. And I always basked in the chance to use them. So my lessons in ICT, going into a prim blue room with black monoliths and screens all around, remembering the distinct scent of curtain dust from how often the place was rarely dusted off, it's nostalgic. I can still picture it in my head to this day. I remember days where, because of how heavy the weather was outside, because of how bad it was outside, the conditions, and the possibility of thunderstorms, the hammering of the rain against the concrete outside and trying to avoid getting a cold, we'd be ushered into the ICT room or some of the nearby computers elsewhere, snagging one of the fun office swivel chairs to sit on and immediately get access to the World Wide Web, the internet, albeit with good moderation. I remember it all really vividly actually. Forming a line outside the room, being ushered in, told to take a seat, slightly struggling to get on the fun swivelly office chairs as we waited patiently for everyone to get in, get to their seats, then being told by the teacher to press the button on the computer to boot up, then booting up what must have been Windows 7 or Vista back then. From even this, I learned a lot. Basic HTML for basic little unpolished websites we could make about ladybugs and cute things we liked. Learning about internet safety and to never accept emails from strangers. Making sure we knew not to talk to strangers in general without an adult present. And edutainment. Lots and lots of edutainment. For example, Education City and Percy Parker. God fucking hell, I remember these two. Education City was an online platform where you learn literacy and mathematics through these interactive games, including a parody of Tomb Raider called Kara Loft. I swear I'm not making this shit up. I was shocked to find out that only recently, I guess as of this video, did Education City shut down, like after all these years. Mental. As for Percy Parker, imagine the fella from the Nut Shack if he wasn't a goon and if he had oddly groovy songs to the times tables. The Peanut House, if you will. Shit was fun. Learning on computers was fascinating to me, but the best part is that if we did all of our lessons well and on time, and if we all did well as a class, no disruption or anything, we had free choice time, and I'm sure you can guess what this entails. But if we got everything done, we could spend the rest of the lesson doing whatever we wanted on the computers. Playing around with word art, drawing in paint, fiddling around with the other programs, and net access with good moderation. But for the clever kids, those who had the itch to go beyond, they found Flash games. Flash games, from what I recall, were actually something that got you in trouble if you were found playing them, as they were neither educational or informative to the class. So a lot of us got used to this idea of making sure to quickly tab out if someone came nosying around. I remember being in ICT lessons actually, seeing classmates next to me accessing websites I'd never known about, playing games I'd never seen before, experiences I couldn't have ever dreamed of, and I followed suit after combating some nerves, getting access to a world of games I could have never envisioned. So allow me to go into detail on my experience, personally, with Flash games. The first thing was getting to them. Something I briefly mentioned was that there was moderation to going online, which, good, especially being a kid on the internet, you need that kind of moderation. You couldn't access certain things like Newgrounds or YouTube, which often meant that Flash game sites that hosted the games themselves we loved in our free choice time were blocked. So how do you access Flash games past the block? How do you find these sites that haven't been filtered by the system? Simple! You find an unblocked version of the site. It's funny even now, if you search in some of these sites, you'll find some variation of the name plus unblocked in the recommended search. It makes me chuckle. It's a remnant of the old days that leaks through still. So that's how I came across friv.com. God, what a throwback. I remember this site like it was yesterday. When and where I found Friv is unclear, but it was a bit of an unspoken rule in our class that if you didn't discuss where to find these things, you just sort of looked over at the other person's screen you were next to and checked to see if they were playing. The act of which became incredibly tense when teachers would walk by. If you got caught on these sites, you'd certainly be in trouble. This site is a bit of an enigma to me. Its history is kind of hard to trace, actually. It seems that if the Wayback Machine is anything to go by, Friv was actually some sort of animation studio before becoming a Flash game site? Or maybe the archives aren't exactly correct. Either way, this site is so deeply familiar that I can't help but feel nostalgic just thinking about it. Friv is one of those sites that, in the wake of the discontinuation of Flash, was actually able to adapt to the changing circumstances, and you can actually play Flash games on there still, albeit emulated, but from what I've experienced, the emulation is legitimately solid. But back to the site, and what it meant to me back in my primary school years. I remember being nervous, wanting to play all these cool online games, and all it took was a classmate to tell me about the funny little game he was playing one day on his screen. Raft Wars! God, this game is a massive throwback for me, and a contender for honestly my favourite Flash game of all time. When I think of Flash games, I think of this game in particular because to me it's just a very great example of what Flash is, what it can be, and how damn fun it can be for just a small little project. Stylistically, it's always reminded me of South Park, which funnily enough is how I came across it kinda in the first place. When I was in primary school, I must have been around 9 or 10 years old, I was enjoying free choice time when someone next to me was playing Raft Wars. At the time, I had no idea what it was, but that person next to me saw me being interested in what he was playing, and he encouraged me to stop being such a wuss and just find Raft Wars on friv.com. I'd been hesitant since it reminded me of South Park, however, curiosity got the best of me, and I'm glad it did since this game fucking rocks. The story of this game is simple. A kid playing on a beach discovers a motherlode of treasure and diamonds beneath the crisp sand, and it makes it into the news. However, it seems that it's attracted the attention of all sorts of sleazy bad guys who want to get your treasure and run off with it for their own greedy gain. So, as the kid and his brother, it's your task to take them down one by one and defend what's yours. It's a simple enough premise. I love it. The gameplay is simple. The game is a turn-based shooter in which you're tasked with taking out the enemies in your way to win the round, be it by depleting their health to 0 or to knock them into the watery depths below. To do this, you and your kid brother are armed with plastic guns that shoot baseballs, while your enemy is armed with anything from cannonballs to shurikens to even explosive arrows. While it may seem like you're underpowered in comparison, it's how you play that makes things matter. You see, there are a few factors at play. Firstly, you can control the strength of your shots by moving your mouse close or distant from your playable characters, with moving it closer to you lessening the shot strength, moving it further away increasing its strength, and this is an incredibly important factor, as it can determine just how swiftly you get the round done and dusted with. But the second factor is your environment. In addition to the enemies that you face, various NPCs are scattered around the environment, which, if your shot makes contact with them, it gives them 1 extra bounce. This is a negligible detail, until you realise that through the physics of your shot and how easy it is for your shots to ricochet, you can pull off some insane snipes, meaning that if you play just right, you can seriously mollywop the enemies, which by God really comes in handy with some of the later ones. Although, be careful, as enemy shots can do the same. By playing well, you gain money, which can be used to not only buy alternative bullets to shoot like rockets and grenades, which do lethal damage, But you can also upgrade your raft, fortify it, also add an additional player to your little squad. In a sense, the character you play as and your kid brother act as lives, so if one of you dies or is knocked off, you're able to have just one more chance to fight back against your enemies. Combining this, the way your shots ricochet, the randomness factor, and the skill that's required to be able to predict and take down your enemies, Raft Wars' gameplay loop is so damn satisfying. In general, this is a deeply satisfying game because when it comes down to it, being able to predict where your enemies are based off of memory and approximation, perfectly aligning the strength of the shot, watching as enemies bounce into each other like bowling pins from being blasted at and end up being perfectly defeated or knocked into the water, the jingle of the victory theme, God, it's so satisfying. There's a certain tactility and fun to being able to stock up on everything as well. Turning your tiny little raft into a fucking war machine, like damn! Can you tell I really like this game? Honestly, this is a contender for my favourite Flash game of all time. I know I've said that already, but I have to state that again. Despite that, it's not perfect with being mollywopped by the enemy, as the difficulty curve spikes, being a bit frustrating, especially if it's over and over and over. Like, damn, the enemies around the midpoint of the game can either be extremely chill or, oh, okay, never mind, time to die, I guess. It's also aged in certain other ways, but it's just something of the time, you know? Despite that, I think that certain aspects of the game, like the humour, has aged with a kind of adorable and amusing charm, with leaving the game idle, making the characters perform silly quotes or actions. It's little things like that that make a game stick out in my mind. Honestly, the game is just pure charm, oozing with charm. It reminds me a lot of summers from back in the 2000s, the way that the heat wasn't overwhelming or lethal, how water pistols and water fights were like practically everywhere. They felt both refreshing and fun, the certain scent of the pollen amongst the green grass. Man. Raft Wars is one of those games that even now I play just for the fun of it. It's funny really, when I was a kid I never got to see the ending because despite getting to the genuinely mad plot twist of the parents going against the kids to get the treasure, free choice time always ended before I could complete the game. Beating the game now feels cathartic. It feels satisfying in that regard. What I didn't know, by the way, up until recently, was that there's actually a sequel to the game. Yeah, there's actually a Raft Wars 2, and while I haven't played it, it looks genuinely solid. It's one of those things which I'll probably play when I get the time. Honestly, one of my favourite games. Period. I love Raft Wars. I sincerely love it. Ultimate Flash Sonic. This game is legitimately astonishing. I don't say that just for the sake of being exaggerative, by the way. This game is genuinely astonishing. Back when I was a kid, I thought it was amazing, but even now I can't help but feel like awestruck at the level of effort that went into this Flash game. It's a mock recreation of Sonic Advance 2, entirely recreated within Flash. As someone who only had Sonic Advance 1 and Sonic Advance 3 as a kid, but never 2 for some reason, this scratched the itch that I had been feeling back then. What was Sonic Advance 2 like? Sure, the Flash game isn't one-to-one with it, but this is very close. So how does it play? Albeit with some slight physics wonkiness, the game plays exactly like you'd expect Sonic Advance 2 to play. Like, all the characters you'd expect from the original game are in here: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Cream the Rabbit, although they're not entirely one-to-one with their original playstyles. Usual moves such as gathering momentum via going fast with the arrow keys and pressing the spacebar to jump, they all work here. It plays like a Sonic game, but what's genuinely impressive is its existence. Legitimately. I know I've somewhat harped on this, but look at it this way. Sonic Advance 2 was released in 2002, with Ultimate Flash Sonic coming out just 2 years later in 2004. And even more impressively, this game was made by a singular guy, Dennis Gid. One guy! One fucking guy! In Flash! It's shockingly impressive! Like, I need to, state this, and given the fact that Sonic Advance 2 never got a PC release or any sort of home computer release, which, you know, the fact that one guy was able to recreate the first third of the game in its own physics in Flash is legitimately impressive and cannot be understated. My memories of finding this game are hazy, honestly, but from what I recall, one of my sisters credits herself with introducing the game to the school that her and myself would ultimately play the game on and go to, causing the other kids in the school to play the game so much during their own free choice time to the point where its specific URL on Friv, which is where I found the game listed back then, got banned by the school system. I recall playing the game a lot in public libraries as well. To me back then, and even now somewhat, the game felt like a myth in a way, as it just didn't feel real. You see, a lot of Flash games from my experience were original creations, or took influence from existing games, and while there are plenty of Mario Flash games that are asunder when it came to Flash gaming across the internet in the 2000s, Sonic Flash games were a certain level of quality and unique that felt so fun to come across when you ended up doing so. However, it's also an example of a repeated kinda bitter tasting habit when it came to Flash games. I didn't experience Ultimate Flash Sonic through Newgrounds. Rather, Friv was where I encountered it a fair amount, but what I noticed from going back through the various games I've played is that a lot of them were rehosted, often without credit to the original creators or skipping over credit, which is really fucking shitty, may I just say. Like, it doesn't matter if it was back then, it's still shitty. Which is interesting in retrospect, given that Flash games brought a lot of net traffic to sites that hosted them. In a way, it's interesting just how different the internet used to be in that regard. Other than that, what else is there to this game? Well, there's an options screen, there's a password system. Passwords, eh? And there's a list of these. That's something I find so nostalgic about Flash games, just this idea of passwords that either save your progress or to unlock certain goodies in games like these. As a kid, this also felt like a myth to me. I mean, I was a dumb little kid, I had no idea where to find the codes, but with a bit of jiggery pokery, we can... Wait, Shadow is playable? If I had known about this as a kid, holy hell, I'd have literally screamed out of excitement, but even now, wow, this is so cool. Using sprites from Sonic Battle, this is such a cool addition to the game. Even as you play the game and its physics go a bit, well, ballistic, it's stuff like this that's so unbelievably unique to the kind of environment that Flash fosters that makes finding these sorts of secrets in these kind of games feel so rewarding. Imagine being a kid and having this knowledge. You'd feel cool. Having the knowledge of Shadow being in this game. Like, Shadow wasn't in Sonic Advance 2. This is unique. Genuinely really cool. On that note, this is one of those Flash games that from an almost unanimous universal perspective everyone knew, even the non-Sonic fans out there, which says a lot. But it's also an example of how by doing something genuinely ambitious and using Flash in that way, you can make something that lasts forever and ingrains itself as a deeply fond memory in the hearts of millions. Such a genuinely cool game, and it isn't the only time which Sonic gets a good mention in this video. Trust me, it comes up a lot. The right mix. You know, it's funny, but I don't exactly remember where I encountered this particular game. I assume it may have been Friv, as Friv did have a habit of putting a ton of random little things on the site. Sometimes it felt like Russian roulette, in which you were either the poor unfortunate soul who found the impossible game or the scary maze game and got childhood trauma, or you were the really cool motherfucker who found Raft Wars. But somewhere in between laid the right mix. I really vibe with this game, and no, it's not just because it's about alcohol, although there is a certain appeal. I really love this one. The aesthetic, the toony yet refined nature of the graphics, the music and just how prim and proper it makes itself out to be, delivers the experience of playing this game in a particularly professional package. Strangely fitting, given that this game seems to be a promotional piece for the people who made it, which, is curious, I guess? Flash was a very flexible thing to make games in, to animate in, it still is. I do have to wonder just what the aim of this game was though, really, given the fact that a lot of Flash sites swiped this game up with their rehosting. Hell, even as a kid I recall that people in my class spoke about the fun drink game. Anyway, that aside, what's this whole thing about? The gameplay is honestly interesting. The idea is to mix different drinks together provided to you by the bartender to try and woo the guy and get feedback. However, the catch is that you don't get much information about just what you can create, what drink you can potentially create, the dastardly concoction and whatever it tastes like, meaning that you're going off of common sense, and if you're not a drinker, I guess, then, well, prepare yourself, as depending on how you make your drink, it leads to a lot of wild outcomes. outcomes. Make a drink disgusting enough and you get the poor fucker to vomit. Make a drink that's potent and you knock the guy out cold from the sheer oomph for the drink. Make it too hot, the guy literally has his mouth on fire. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Every time you get him to drink your concoction, he provides feedback, giving you little hints as to what he'd like in the drink to make it better, to improve it. And the more that you get feedback and perfect what you're trying to serve to him, you can get him to really enjoy your drink, leading to some incredibly satisfying outcomes where not only does he praise your cocktail, but he's happy with it. Honestly, just the fact that you're given so many choices and there's so much room to be able to get a reaction out of the guy is amazing for a Flash game, and there's a fun kick to seeing how he reacts to whatever you make. Whoever animated this is seriously talented, as the level of fluidity and fun when it comes to the reactions your drink could get from him speaks a lot to the fun that people had when it comes to the people who were developing this game. It says that they probably had a lot of fun making it. This is one of those games that's such an unexpected level of high quality given the fact that it seems to be a promotional tool, but to be honest, assuming that something like this can't be high quality, even with what it is a bit silly. I always had a soft spot for this game, as to be honest, there was something fun about the sheer possibilities at play and what you could make for the bartender and the kind of reactions you could draw out of the guy. In general, the game is such a beautifully animated and drawn piece that I can't help but feel that it would probably make for a bigger, fully fledged game someday if people really took it that far. Like, I can see this being either a really cool mobile game or an indie game that has a cult fan base, perhaps. Super Mario Flash. Weirdly enough, trying to find this one was kind of difficult. There's something unique to Mario Flash games in that there is an abundance of them, that narrowing down the search to a specific one I played as a kid was a bit of an endeavour. But I don't exactly mind that, it's just, whoa. But I always really remember really loving this one. Even from looking at it, just from the title screen, I can vividly recall those sunny afternoons before the turn of the season from summer to autumn, the sunlight cutting through the dark ICT room and admittedly blinding the screens for the most part. But playing a Mario game online, god, that was an astoundingly wild concept to me at the time, since you could only find Mario on Nintendo, after all. Even as a kid, I knew that. Super Mario Flash is based off of the version of Super Mario Bros. 3 in the Super Mario All-Stars collection, try saying that a few times, with some particular differences. Mario and Luigi don't have distinguishable physics, meaning they're both the same, and as far as I'm aware, the level layouts and graphics are entirely just Super Mario Bros. 1, despite the overworld being from Super Mario Bros. 3, which is kind of funny and a bit weird, but I like it. The music cutting off early, the levels ending quick, it's the little quirks like that that honestly make me smile, because it speaks to a level of charm with how this game was made. I love little things like that, the incongruent meshing of elements to make something stable, to make a fan game of an existing property seem like the real counterpart it's attempting to emulate. Some might find that to be theft. I call it adorable, because it speaks to the level of creativity people have when making this stuff, the way that how fans of this stuff are trying to recreate what they love, you know? Anyway, that aside, stuff like the toad houses, the passage pipes, all of them within the SMB free levels that are in here, they work fine, and that's about it. It's a bit anticlimactic perhaps, but that's because the game is fucking hard. I'm chalking it up to being one of the few people that's legitimately bad at Mario, but man, this is a hard game, and making certain jumps with the kind of PC controls that you're wielding can be genuinely tense, given that the level design and the jumps you've got to make are genuinely ballsy, all things considered. Also, these levels were designed for a controller. Like, maybe I'm bitching a little bit here. I can't play Mario with a keyboard! Honestly, I want to complete this game fully someday, as I am legitimately so curious in what's remaining inside of this one. New Mario Bros. 2. This game is fucking ominous. I'm not exaggerating here. This game legitimately feels kind of unsettling at times. I discovered this game when I was a kid on thrift.com, trying to find new games to play one afternoon in free choice time, only to find this one. It left an impression on me. The atmosphere is strangely tense and atmospheric, the assets seem to mesh yet clash at the same time, and the game is legitimately difficult in a way that feels like it's designed for a Mario Pro, but not outright unfair or trollish. Basically, it's difficult, but it's not a Kaizo game. The game very much plays the same as Super Mario Flash. Similar sort of controls actually, but the difference comes in the setup. This is a Mario game where you have to pay attention, because every level I've played so far is designed almost like a gauntlet of your platforming skills. Everything from the way the platforms are set and designed to the sneaky placement of enemies. You've got to be careful with this one, something which feels difficult given that the atmosphere is tripping in tension, so you want to run as fast as possible. I'm not even sure why it's like this, but I like it. It feels like the game treats you with a challenge rather than treating you like an idiot. Not to say that the other games I've shown so far are treating the player like a fool, but there's a difference between this and, say, the casual Super Mario Bros. 1 experience, you know? But honestly, the game's fun. Finding this game was difficult, actually. I found several different versions of it, all of which were different in some way, but I ended up settling on a version of the game on evilgames.eu, which is probably the funniest name for a Flash hosting site I've seen in my life. Positive comment for the record. I love it when sites have silly names. Yes, I am in fact a wombo.com enjoyer. Sue me. But this is just another reminder that in the age of the Flash game and the 2000s internet, even the early 2010s internet, you could literally find normal Flash games on some of the most randomly named sites ever. Even Friv.com is such a bizarre name. Like, what the hell is a Friv? Should I be threatened? Is it an invitation? Well, I don't know. I wasn't able to complete the game, unfortunately. I'll be frank, I am shit at Mario. Mainly on these kind of non-Nintendo oriented controls, to be honest. I mean, I'm not really that great at platformers to begin with, I just enjoy the experience, but I do want to come back to this game someday. This is another one of those games in which I'm just kind of curious to see what lies beyond the levels I was unable to honestly beat. I don't know, it'll keep me curious for the longest time. Sandcastle. Good old Sandcastle. Another game from fog.com. Like, Jesus Christ. I legit remember the version of the game hosted on that site, hearing the jingle of the site before the game loaded up on the crusty old computers, though I do recall playing this one on Friv.com as well. Actually, I remember this being one of the games that you'd find search terms for, like Sandcastle Friv.com unblocked or something like that on Google. It's stuff like that that really primed me to be a lot more of a nosy person on the internet. If there's a blockade in the way, then simple, I'll find my way past it, I'll find an unblocker. God, I felt like such a smart ass finding out about those kind of exploits as a kid. Nowadays, it's just kind of basic internet know-how, but hey, give kid me some credit. About Sandcastle itself, though, the game is actually quite similar to the gameplay loop of Raft Wars, especially in the way you can control the strength of your shot via the mouse. However, the difference is that you're defending your kingdom from a horde of ships, who are out to destroy you and your kingdom. You're initially equipped with rocks to throw, but you can upgrade later. The game has a fair amount of implicit humour to it. The bullets beyond just rocks can be everything from giant pencils, tennis balls, a wad of rocks, a bar of soap that skims across the water, and a banana rocket? Yeah, I can't explain that one. But god, these upgrades are fun, and your ticket to getting them is essentially how fast you can manage to take down the armada of ships in your way. The faster you shoot, the bigger the payout upon victory, meaning that your job of defeating your enemies becomes easier. Also similar to Raft Wars, the physics legitimately add to the experience. While the gameplay is honestly fun in of itself, the physics of this game turn this experience into something mad. Unique to your shots, be it from the rocks to the soap bar to the pencil, I can't believe I'm saying that, so on, Your shots have their own unique hitbox and weight to them, so if they get lodged in the ship, then hook, line and sinker, your enemies go down like lead weights. It's especially satisfying with the soap bar, as depending on the strength you shoot it out from, the angle, calculating, predicting just the right positioning for where the ships will be, you can literally sink those ships fast, and by god is it satisfying. Although you do have to actively think and be clever with how you pull off your shots, because otherwise you're wasting time, you're losing potential gold to put into getting more ammo in your next round, and you're making a fool out of yourself. Even for the footage that I got for this segment of the video, I legitimately played a second playthrough after beating it once because the gameplay is just genuinely that satisfying. This is an infinitely replayable game to me, helped by the fact that it looks great, the music playing makes you feel like an almighty powerful Norse god-like bastard, ready to defeat the armadas coming your way, and playing great genuinely rewards you. I have so many memories of playing this one on rainy days actually. Very rarely did I ever see the final level. Get into it for this particular video, and winning felt so damn good. Blocksaws. I think that's how it's said. Man, I do feel like an idiot when it comes to this particular game. Okay, here's the thing. I was one of those kids that grew up on platformers, then first-person shooters, with it taking me until my teenage years for me to actually give puzzle games and RPGs a proper look over. Yes, the guy that loves Deltarune now wasn't an RPG kid. Surprise, surprise. As a kid, I actually did play this one, although I didn't get very far, and I gave up on it very quick. It was too hard for me, and it didn't click with my not puzzle-focused brain. Upon coming back to it, wow, this is a really fun game. Wow, holy hell, it's fun. It's a really simple concept. Using the directional keys, you move, flip, rotate, and try to maneuver a rectangle on square tiles into a hole. It sounds very simple in concept, but I assure you it is not, and adding to this is the introduction of special switches that alter the stage or activate new routes. You've got to essentially maneuver and plan out where to go in a manner similar to chess, so if you're a chess fan, you're gonna like this one. And like chess, the feeling of victory is so damn satisfying, a jolt of joy to my brain, but also like chess, it can be, however, frustrating. But getting past the difficulty incline is legitimately fun. It requires you to actually really think about where you're going, which probably makes it a lot different than most Flash games. No shade to them, but come on, I've got to point that out. This is another one of those Flash games that has such a potent atmosphere as well, by the way. Something that you'd find in one of the Matrix movies. I'm half expecting a Sentinel from that movie to pop up and get me here. Either way, good game. I didn't spend too much time on it, but it was fun to revisit for this video. Tails' Nightmare. Wow, this one is a throwback. A really deep throwback. To me, this was the spooky Sonic game I'd known of as a kid, but I only played once or twice because I was legitimately scared of it. For context, and you can probably assume it anyway, but I was a Sonic kid. I loved the series so much, I still do. I grew up with Advance, the older games, via Sonic Mega Collection. Hell, a bit of Sonic X. I loved Sonic, and to this day I still do. Go watch the other Sonic related videos on my channels, please. But seeing this as a kid legitimately spooked me, but as such, it lingered within my brain, and with looking back at some of the things I've played as of late made in Flash, wow, this one really stands the test of time. The first thing that sticks out to me is that when booting this thing up in Flash Player, wow, this actually fits the player. There's no weird crop or anything, like it's made for this resolution. This is surprising. Very rarely do I find Flash games like this that actually fit the player, let alone my screen resolution. But anyway, about the game itself. The concept is simple. Tails is in a nightmarish place where everything is designed to harm him, so you as the player have to carefully navigate the little critter around this hellish wasteland and survive. As it's based off of Sonic gameplay, the controls are familiar enough, albeit with that PC twist. Moving and hitting the down arrow rolls you into a ball. You can also spin dash by holding down and hitting the Z key. You can fly by jumping in the air and holding the up key, but unique to this game is the tailspin, which shoots you directly upward depending on the amount of oomph you put into it by holding up and hitting the Z key. While these controls might seem strange and in comparison to how Tails plays in, well, the official games, I mean they certainly are, they're so meticulously designed for what this game entails because despite it being a Sonic game, it's also a game about careful movement and survival. Literally everything from the spires blocking your path to the bottomless pits are designed to kill you here. And it doesn't fuck around. Touch those sickly spires enough and you're toast. This isn't a game about going fast, but rather using your fast moveset to be careful. I really love this, actually, because it turns the speed-heavy gameplay of Sonic into something so methodical, careful, precise, but unique in its own right. I remember finding the style of this game to be really creepy as a kid as well, not really liking the overdose of red in everything, but I find it really charming nowadays. It's just so visually sound. There's such a level of great atmosphere to this game too, in that from the music choices to the style, it's just genuinely fun. After you get past the level, you actually end up in a boss battle against Tails doll, which, wow, is actually really challenging. I've died several times on this one, but super satisfying once you get the attack patterns down. Once you beat it, the music goes quiet. The end of the game. So you keep going to the right, expecting a signpost, and then Tails doll gets you. Turns out it was a nightmare. Or was it? Honestly, I'm not ashamed to admit that, despite expecting some surprising twist, because, of course, the quickness of that jump scare got me. All in all, though, I'm really happy that I came back to this one. I never beat it as a kid. I was too scared, so beating it now feels incredibly satisfying and cathartic. This is something that I generally note with a lot of these Flash games, but there's something so deeply wholesome about a game like this having so many people in its credits. This idea of a collective of people helping towards making something that went on to be a part of millions of kids' childhoods, it's endearing. I love that about Flash games, honestly. Sonic character designer. Man, and the memories with this one. When I think of Sonic OCs, I think of this Flash game. Even as my memories of it in my childhood are hazy, I remember it to such a vivid extent that I can say it lingered with me, and a lot of other people feel the same way. I know Sonic fans used to get a fair amount of flack from the rest of the internet for, the whole original characters shtick. The original characters they'd make, sometimes bordering on a level of parodic that's either unironic or ironic. But, I've always found the idea of Sonic fans making their own OCs to be kinda cool, I mean, the series is primed for it. Look at the Archie-centric characters, look at all the random characters in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Underground, Sonic X, etc, etc. Even some of the newer Sonic animated shows. Like, is it any wonder as to why people make OCs in this series? Like, most of the unique characters these spin-offs and shows are just so specific that it's no wonder why people make their own. There is a character for everyone. And it's funny because Sega understands this so well. I mean, Sonic Forces exists. Nuff said. But anyway, this game. I'm not sure where I exactly found it, like most Flash games. I think it may have been something that my sisters introduced me to, given that they too were big Sonic fans when they were younger. I have some faint memories of playing this little interactive maker on the family Windows XP computer. Man, I miss that thing. I don't recall this one ever being on Friv. I found this game again on Doll Divine, which I swear feels so familiar to me, but I can't place my finger on why. This game is pretty simple. It's an OC maker, with a legitimately impressive level of customization. You can choose from things as noticeable as the quill shape, to the muzzle shape, shoes, eye colour, so on and so forth, and teeth apparently. Finally, I can make a British Sonic character. But yeah, it's fairly simple. The magic of this one comes from the fact that with the setup you've been given, you can make a fairly detailed Sonic character of your own. For a 2000s Sonic fandom internet, I can genuinely imagine that this must have made someone feel so validated out there. Thing is, with a fandom like this, there are a lot of people who are scared of drawing, or don't feel confident enough to draw what they have in mind for their own character. So this must have been so validating to those people, and I can understand that, well, because I was one of them once. As a kid, I remember myself and my then friends playing this game and playing on the school playground, pretending to be the characters we'd made in the damn thing. and I remember being a kid who had no confidence in art or drawing, so I could make what was in my imagination real, you know? Nowadays I'm a pixel artist with about 6 or so years under the belt, following in the steps of my sisters, who really are my inspirations first and foremost for art, though I become my own thing. But given the simplicity of this character maker, how it taps into that specific interest for Sonic fans back then, and to an extent even now, it makes me feel fuzzy, honestly. Fuzzy with a certain ebb of nostalgia. It's pure, it's wholesome. Even the way it's designed is enough to get me feeling all cozy. It has that 2000s art program gradient and funky word art font feel. I think the only thing that I dislike about this game is the fact that you can't save your designs, like, at all. You can design them, name them, but you can't export. But that's about it. But to be fair, I don't really think that it's such a bad thing. I mean, if you're computer literate enough to access Flash games, you should probably know how to screenshot. This is one of those games that I feel like if Sega made something of their own, like beyond just Sonic Forces, made their own, I don't know, OC maker, it would probably be incredibly popular. I mean, it was popular enough to get into Sonic Forces, so why not its own game, you know? Come on, Sega, I'm giving you a free idea right here. Happy Wheels. You know, it's weird, but I don't really have too many strong memories with this one, and it's strange given that its landmark presence on the internet, on Let's Plays and YouTube gaming, especially that. It helped shape what a Let's Play could be, and it helped spark the careers of people like PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, Markiplier. Hell, even now, it's a point of interest still with Let's Players. I actually vividly remember Happy Wheels being all over YouTube back in the day. It's where I first heard of some of those Let's Players I've just mentioned, and it very much clued me in on the idea of YouTube, as before this I was vaguely aware of the site and what it was. It was not as huge as people see it as now. Living in a time warp town will do that to you. The internet was like having a Lamborghini in your garage. I've had some experience with this game in the past. It's a fun game. I had my fun with it, but I never really gelled with it. It just sort of hit the threshold for me in terms of what I really enjoyed for these games. Nothing ever off-put me about it, like not even the crazy amount of gore, but while Happy Wheels is an objectively fun game and its user creativity pushes it to the heights that it's achieved, plus the random goriness of it, I just tend to find that I've never clicked with it. And it just never clicked with me in a way that something like, say, Raft Wars could. Chalk it up to personal experience or something else, it's a good game, but not one I cared much for in the grand scheme of things. I've had fun looking back on all of these. It's funny, as I get older I find myself generally becoming a lot more thoughtful about what I played in my young formative years. How did it inspire me? How did it influence me? How did it write itself into the DNA of who I am as a creative person? An artist? I ask myself these kind of questions a lot, as to be honest I don't really know why I think the way that I do. I don't know what's led me to perceive the world the way that I do and how I think. And as I've had time lately to, well, heal from the curveballs that life has thrown at me, it's nice to reflect back on these things, indulge a bit. But it's also been a bit of a realization in many ways. As playing through these games took time, I began to think on the nature of Flash games and its relationship to the internet. To me, all of this goes a lot deeper, in that Flash games are an outlier to the internet's relationship with the past, and that there's a greater topic and conversation to be had here. If there's something about me that people should know, in case they don't know already, given the nature of the videos I make on this channel, it's that I like the past. The past, to me, is an interesting thing, because for the years that we live through, there's so much that's overlooked or forgotten, falling between the lines and into the cracks of our culture. And Flash is no exception to that, I feel, to an extent. Around the time of the format's discontinuation, and even after, there's video after video from people either discussing their memories with the medium or the history of Flash, doing their part in immortalizing what it meant to them. The video that you're watching right now is one of them, to be honest. I'm going to be frank about that. I'm documenting some of the various experiences I've had with these types of games and what they meant to me. What I find interesting is that despite the apparent death of Flash, it's never been more alive, since, contrary to the predictions of those who were so adamant on its end, and Adobe's blatant attempts to wipe Flash from the public consciousness, people have taken it upon themselves to keep the format alive, and to this day there are still new Flash games being made. You can still find so many of the well-known ones in new places preserved forever. Flash, to me, never really died. It simply became free from the shackles that were around its neck from Adobe, who basically did absolutely nothing with it. From the people who, quite frankly, don't care about the longevity of what they promote and put out. That's Adobe for you. It became, like a lot of things on the internet, another creative tool that artists could share with one another. I find it so interesting that, from what I've seen, people don't lament Flash's apparent death. I think on a cultural level, that's because people understand that Flash still exists to some degree. I find Flash curious because it doesn't seem to have fallen into the same yearning nostalgia people have nowadays for literally everything else that people are generally obsessed with the past over. What do I mean, though? To me, the internet has always been a place where people are inherently, to a lot of degrees, primed to be obsessed with the past and what came before. That might sound like an outlandish claim, but when you put the examples together, it starts to make sense. The Wayback Machine, for example, set up as a way for people to look at the past of the internet through pasting web links in and finding their available archives, allowed people a way to return back to the pre-2000s internet, the Y2K era. People, even in the 2000s, had some interest in the apparent simplicity of the early internet. And to this day, the Wayback Machine finds use in lost media hunts, like that of content from the pre-2000s, like CR6, wherein people are determined to use the machine to dig into that particular rabbit hole, among many others. Alongside the Wayback Machine exists the Vaporwave boom from the late 2000s to the 2010s, where, through using literal pieces of audio and imagery from the past, artists and musicians on the internet became determined to create something new out of the old, capturing these feelings of nostalgia and longing in a way that could only have been born on a place like the internet. Creatives from all around the world indulged obsessively, primed by the framework of what Vaporwave could be and what it could mean, and began going backwards into the past to invent something new. Something of which I find particular interest for, given that during the rise of Vaporwave, most of culture was focused on this minimal and sleek look. Music, shows, technology, they were all about being minimal and prim and proper, aiming for this outlandish sense of perfection, which Vaporwave completely opposed. Then there's the retro gaming boom, stemming from the late 90s to the 2010s, where people became interested over time, online, with documenting the past through content creation, like that of the famous Angry Video Game Nerd. From the basis of what he was able to create, an entire genre of game reviewers invested in looking at the past for comedic effect and critical analysis blossomed. Primed to invest themselves in the past, people continue to this day to create content in that particular field that's designed to dig into the past, and it's become a cornerstone on YouTube in particular. It also generally applies to the whole internet reviewer shtick as well, especially the nostalgia critic and the whole thing going on with that guy with the glasses, where people in the 2000s to even now still look back at the movies from the past and make comedy or something new out of them, with that even fueling something original of their own in the process. People, from the tools the internet provides, from its ability to share media from the past for discussion, to look back at old games and movies and share those discussions to millions of people, have always been primed to care about the past to an obsessive degree. Something that has only grown stronger as the 2020s hit. COVID hit the 2020s like a sledgehammer to a glass house, with the shards landing on everyone in the general vicinity. In general, people have turned back towards bygone days as a blanket for comfort as things get more complicated, things get heavier to deal with. The rise of instant gratification media, the depressing onslaught of news of bad actors trying to take advantage of good people, the threats constantly to artistic creativity, and people are turning inward onto the past to cope with the fear of the future they can't possibly predict in any sense of the word. People have always been obsessed with what once was, but it's increased in its potency as we approach the second half of the 2020s. All of us are still barely recovering from the decimating waves of the COVID-19 pandemic. People look back at the past all the time now, more often than ever. Platforms like TikTok have post after post after post, listicles about things from the past people miss, games from the past, underrated games from the past, discontinued food items and products, even really specific to me at times, videos about primary school activities and items. So many of these, all specific, yet they appeal to someone, and the comments are asunder with people wanting to go back, wishing to go back, and I understand it. Because when my life hit me hard, I decided to turn back to Flash games as a way to cope with the stress of my present situation. A way to cope when all of a sudden my dreams and hopes for the future were made just a little bit more distant away from me, the journey becoming extended even further, the step towards my dreams becoming more and more. Even now, this video has taken its time because once again, I found something positive and it ended up being another curveball that hurts. Felt good to look back on things and indulge, just for a little while. But this isn't healthy. I'm an advocate for the importance of the past, right? And keeping it alive for future generations to see. But this level of indulging in the past to escape the present has always struck me as deeply uncomfortable. Something I don't see being discussed is that sure, while the past is important, if all you do is become obsessed with it and what once was, you lose track of the genuinely great things that are occurring in the present, the cool things happening in the future. By being stuck in the past, we create this cycle. We spend so much time looking back for the past, looking back into the past for what it was, distracting ourselves from the present, running from the future that trickles away like tears in the rain. By being so obsessed with what we can't possibly return back to, we create this infinite loop where we're chasing after the phantom of days done and dusted, too afraid to face the present. Fearful and forgetful of the upcoming future, we try and avoid acknowledging because it's easier to indulge in obsession than face reality. Our own Mobius strip of obsession and fear. But it doesn't have to be like this. In a time where my life was, by all technical accounts, simpler, these Flash games meant a lot to me because they introduced me to this world of homegrown creativity from people who genuinely just wanted to make something cool. People weren't restricted by legality or IP rights. All that mattered in the end was that people had access to their own imagination and their own creative tools, and they used Flash as a way to write that into reality, influencing, inspiring, and making millions of kids across the world happy in the process. At a time where there were still places for kids online to congregate to without the threat of advertisers, creeps, and other weirdos, kids could simply go on a site like thrift.com and experience so many amazing games. I understand, personally, that it can be hard to face the present day and the future when it might literally just be an endless slew of bad news, chaos, despair, a lot of the time. I'm not saying that everyone has to brace themselves for that, but despite reality sucking at times, it's better to embrace the past but not be consumed by it. To appreciate it for what it is and let it influence you positively for the future, lest it make you forget that there's things worth keeping going for. I created this video in response to an event within my life that shook me up, to be frank with you. I felt aimless, destroyed, and hurt. I felt betrayed, so I turned back to the games that formed my formative years. The games that had entertained me at school while things were complicated elsewhere in life, as a means to soul search, to soothe the pain of what happened. Games that really inspired me as an artist and as a creative. They kept my brain dreaming, kept me imagining. And really, what's more important and more beautiful than the raw, untapped amber of imagination, the ability to create something amazing and let others see it for what it is? Flash games were a part of my childhood. They're a part of me, and I love them dearly. And I turned back to them here for this video as I needed time to heal from what I went through. I needed comfort. I got that through my beloved partners, friends, family, these games too. But to be frank, right, I'll be frank, it can fucking suck. Reality can fucking suck. Like, it can really fucking suck. I've despaired too. I'm not immune to it, but it doesn't have to be the case where the past clouds the pain of the present and the future. Shit sucks, but the past is something to inspire you to keep going, influence you to create something new, make new memories, and to keep going despite how things are, because in the end, it's better to embrace the past as a pen pal to what once was, rather than be consumed by it as a whole. There's things worth living for beyond what once was, so go out there, do something cool, live, have fun. No matter how hard the world is, there's always a way around things. Go out there and live. You've got an amazing world out there to do so many cool things with, and while there may be bad days, they're not forever, and good days always come to balance things out. That's the takeaway that I have got from replaying these Flash games, in that while coming back to the past is nice, it's time to look forward to the future. These things can inspire me, they'll always be a part of me, but they don't have to be everything that defines me. I've got people to live for. My partners, family, friends, people I love dearly, passions I wish to pursue, dreams I'm working towards. I'm thankful for Flash games. I won't fall into the past, they'll inspire me for the future instead. So treat yourself kindly, right? And be nice to yourself. Life can be hard, but it's always worth it. Go out there and live. It's a big wide world. Nothing can stop you if you keep trying.